Do you actually know how much you're losing in payment fees? If you don't, that's okay. A lot of the business owners that we talk to don't. And when they do find out, it's often too late. At that point, they're already tens of thousands of dollars in the hole. Now you might be asking, can you actually save $10,000 just from payment fees alone? Well, in this video, I'm gonna give you a roadmap to find out if that's the case for your business. You see, payment processing fees are one of those lingering expenses that everyone assumes is just a tax you have to pay. But I'm here to tell you that that tax is way too high most of the time. And so it doesn't matter if you haven't looked at your merchant statement for months, because we're gonna start with the very foundational things, beginning with the one number that really matters from your statement, and that's your true rate. We've all probably seen rates posted on payment processors' websites or told to us by salespeople. But the problem that plagues business owners is that that's often not the rate they end up paying. And that's what the true rate is for. It cuts through the noise to find out what's actually true. Here's a situation more than one of us has probably been in. So we're driving down the road and we see a roadside sign that says oil change for $50. We pull into the shop thinking that it's a great deal, but inevitably something else comes up. Let's say your air filter needs to be changed, your transmission fluid is low, and by the time the bill gets to you when you're sitting in your driver's seat, it's upwards of $100. You see, the same thing happens to business owners and their payment devices. So here's where the true rate comes in. It tells you what you're actually paying once everything has been added on top. So monthly fees, hidden fees, you name it. It cuts through all that noise. And to calculate it, you only need two numbers from your statement. Take your total fees paid for that month, and then divide it by your total gross volume for that same month. You end up with a decimal. Then multiply this by 100. This gives you a percentage. Now this percentage is your actual rate, not the advertised one, the actual one. Now that you have this true rate, you can start to determine whether or not it's good. But again, this is something most business owners don't think about enough. We recently talked to an owner of a mental health practice who was paying 4.3%. Now in his eyes, that was normal. But if you really think about it, with his $600,000 in yearly volume, that amounted to $25,000 just in fees. Seems a little high, right? Well, it wasn't until he did a comparison when talking to our team that he realized this. Again, it's often too late. And so here's a quick gut check you can do to determine whether your rate is good or not. Let's start broad. So payment processing fees on average will tend to vary from 1.5% to 3.5%. This is the range you'll commonly find on the internet. Now, if you're already higher than this range, well, that's a problem. But let's get more specific because fees can actually vary between types of businesses as well. One major determinant of this is how you take your payments. So businesses that take payments in person with a physical card reader, they tend to only pay 1.7 to 2.5%. Whereas businesses that take payments online, e-commerce businesses, they'll have slightly higher rates, anywhere from 2.3 to 3%. And so if you fall into the range for your type of business, then that's awesome. But if you're paying 4, 5, 6%, you should start to get worried. If you're paying over 10%, it's time to cut and run. That's just way too high. I mean, if you think about it, most small businesses' margins are around 10%. I think that's the average number. If you're paying 10% of your volume to fees, well, then that wipes out your entire margin. So you've calculated your true rate and you know that you're overpaying. What do you do next? Well, just like when you have the goal of becoming healthier, nothing actually happens until you take the actions needed to get there. So you have to drink that kale smoothie, or go for the 30-minute walk a day, or cut back on processed foods. You get the drill. So now I'm gonna give you 5 actions you can take to start to move towards a lower rate from where you are now. Now the first action is to audit your statements. So that statement you were looking at earlier, pull that out again, and we're gonna go a level deeper. So grab a highlighter and go through your fees and look for any fees that don't seem to make any sense. Now, the first place you should look is in the other fees section of your statement. This is usually where a lot of these nonsense fees are hidden. If you find anything that doesn't seem related to the actual cost of processing credit cards, highlight it, because then you can go back to your processor and ask them about those fees. If they don't have a good answer for you, well then, that's a bad sign. Now, while you're talking to them, another thing to ask them that'll make a difference right away is whether they have interchange plus pricing. Now, this is just an industry term for a more transparent pricing model. It's also called cost plus pricing. What it means is that Whatever the cost is of processing that particular credit card, that's what you're charged, plus a small fixed markup. This is in contrast with other processors who will charge you an inflated rate that stays consistent, but you end up overpaying on. The next thing to do is get some competing quotes. So shop around for other payment providers that seem like they would offer you a better rate. As you're looking around, make sure that transparency is front of mind for you. Make sure their websites have their rates listed and are clear on all the additional fees that you might be paying. And certainly avoid processors that hide their rates behind a sales call. Now, once you have a list of providers that you're interested in, send them that statement of yours and ask them to give you an estimate of what you would pay given your current volume, your transaction size, the types of cards you see in any given month. Because once you get that number back, something will become very clear to you. You're actually starting to see your savings materialize. And that brings us to the next action, which is to calculate what's called a leverage number. This is a number that really demonstrates to you how much you would save if you were with another company. And it's really easy to calculate. So take your existing fees in a given month and subtract the fees that you would pay with that competitor in that month. Multiply that by 12 and you essentially have what your yearly savings would be if you were processing with that competitor instead of your existing one. Let's take that example of the mental health practice from earlier. So they were paying 4.3%. So that amounted to $25,000 a month in fees. If their rate was lowered to 2.3%, they'd only be paying $13,000 a year in fees. That's a $12,000 difference. Wow. Imagine what that money could buy them back in terms of part-time employees, equipment upgrades, marketing dollars. It's a lot of money. Which then brings us to our last action to take, which is to go to your existing provider and ask them to match the rates that you got from the other competitors. Heck, you could take that email thread you had with the competing processor and forward it to your existing provider and ask them, can you match this rate that I'm being offered elsewhere? And if not, can you explain why? Is there something about your service that justifies you charging such a high rate? Now, if you do these 5 things and you still don't have lower fees, well, that's okay, because you now know how much you're actually paying and then what's on the other side if you choose to go with another provider. That's progress. And that's further than most business owners would go. Now, actually switching payment processors is a whole other ordeal and requires another level of care and attention to make sure that you do it right. That's for another video. But I hope that by watching this video, you feel like you're in a more knowledgeable and clear place about what your payment processing fees are. And I hope that you can leave assured that there is something that you can do to actually lower those rates. Now, this is part of a greater series I'm making on how to lower your fees. Up next is a video where I actually dive into a statement and show you how to audit it line by line. So if you want to see that video, make sure you hit subscribe and also leave a comment below on any other topics you'd like me to cover. But apart from that, this was Victor from Helsum Payments. I'm glad you watched to the very end if you're still here, and have a great day.